I'm here to introduce our speaker, and today's speaker is Miss Bobby Borns McNutt, and she's going to do a workshop over Yes, I Can See You. If y'all have any questions, y'all can put it in the chat, and I will try to help Miss Bobby keep up with everything. And good housekeeping, if you can just keep yourself on mute until you have a question. Thank you.
Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this breakout session. My name is Bobby Ann Borns McNutt, and I am a GED instructor for ASU BB. I am housed out of Searcy at a nonprofit organization called 100 Families. And I also teach in Woodruff County at the Augusta Library and also at the BB campus as the night instructor. So when this opportunity came up, I was very excited because if you're like me, I'm one of those persons, I do not like technology. Well, I'll take that back. I didn't like technology. Now, after COVID-19, I love technology. So I wanted to do something to show how great synchronous learning can be in the classroom. So I came up with this presentation called Yes, I Can See You, an in-depth analysis of synchronized learning in the adult education classroom. So basically, when COVID-19 hit, everyone was thrown into this technology thing, right? We still had the responsibility of teaching, and we had to figure out how to blend that learning together and just make it work. So we know there were several reasons that we had to implement that technology, right? First of all, it was necessary. We still have students, regardless of what's going on. They still have to learn. We still have to make sure we're effective instructors, and we just have to keep things moving. Another reason why the blended learning really came into play after COVID-19, safety. It was just safe to do this from a distance, making sure we're following all the legal guidelines and everything, and just making sure everyone overall was safe and healthy. Another thing the blended learning did during COVID-19, it was very accessible. That's one thing about technology. You can always access it. It's quick, it's cost effective, it's efficient. It also allows for the students and instructors to be collaborative. You can actually still work together as a team, and it fosters that communication. What I really like about it, it promotes engagement. It's one thing to present something to your students, but it's another thing if they're not engaged. If they're not engaging in it, they're not retaining it. So I love the fact that you can use technology to have those students remain engaged, with the interactive, the games and the different things that we use. My main thing that I like about technology is it can easily track what you're doing. So now the days of just writing stuff down and documenting here, those days for me are gone anyway. I love the fact that when I do a Zoom meeting or anything, I can get an analysis of who did what, how long I talked, and that's very effective because we need those statistics and those numbers. Another thing with blended learning, and I need to go ahead and specify there's two things with blended learning. There's synchronized learning and there's asynchronous learning. Asynchronous learning means it's just basically the student, they're on their own. It's technology involved, basically like an online course. And synchronous means they're both combined. There's that face-to-face element, but it's through technology, okay? And there is evidence that blended learning actually causes positive effects on student performance. There's evidence of that, and I put that up here. Also, with adults, blended learning activities increases their learning success. So once I found that out, I definitely want to keep this blended learning thing going because I want to make sure all of my adult learners have as much possibility of success as possible. Now, blended learning has some pros, and also, just like everything else, it has some cons. But to me, these pros outweigh those cons. And of course, one of the pros is blended learning is very flexible, okay? I can do synchronous, I can do asynchronous, I can do it however I want to do it as long as it's making sense. And like I said previously, it doesn't cost much, and it makes information very accessible to the student. Now, some of the cons of blended learning, and I had to realize this as well. I didn't think about it until I started doing this research. When you're doing a blended learning thing, at some point the student is going to be by themselves. And that lack of social interaction, it takes a toll on the student at some point. So if you're going to do that blended learning thing, try to make sure that you keep it as synchronous as possible if you can. And just keep in mind that students, they do need that social interaction. Another thing that's going to happen, and I'm experiencing this morning due to the weather, technical issues. You know, technology is good, but when it fails, it fails. So you also have to have a backup. So I would suggest when you're doing blended learning, make sure you have some type of other type of learning materials or something on the side, just in case this technology that you're using, it malfunctions that day. Now, another con is there's some negative physical aspects, and you're probably thinking physical aspects. Think about this. If you're sitting in front of a computer screen for 30, 40 minutes at a time, your eyes are going to start getting tired. Your head may start hurting. You know what I mean? That's going to affect your concentration. On top of that, think about this. What about carpal tunnel syndrome? Some people sit in front of the computer, their wrists are hurting. What about if you're just sitting here and you're not standing up and moving around? Your body may start hurting. So those are some cons that deal with blended learning. And you have to keep those things in mind when you're planning your lessons for the students. Also, you don't want to have too much excessive screen time. That's not good for anybody. Remember, social interaction and all that's combined. And with these negative physical aspects, we want to really keep in mind that our students may have to sit there for an hour looking at our lesson. Well, I need to also put some stuff in there to where that student is going to move around and be a little mobile that day, okay? Now, here's what I call the meat and the potatoes. This is the fun part. Okay. Like I told you earlier, asynchronous learning is basically the aspect where the student is basically doing an online course or some type of online material without the instructor's hand in it. They're doing it on their own. The good thing about asynchronous learning is it's very structured, okay? I don't know if anyone's taking online classes, but you have to be very disciplined when you're doing that. Also, another thing with asynchronous learning, the attendance for the student is at different times. So I may put a certain date that I want my students to make sure this assignment is done, that we do a discussion board where one student might do it early, the other one may do it at the last minute, but everybody's doing it at different times. Also, those learning activities, they're independent. Again, the instructor is not guiding the student besides giving them the initial instructions, and they're walking themselves through it. And this is a no collaborative approach. It's still flexible for some students. Some students can thrive in that type of environment, but this is a student-focused approach. So when you're doing asynchronous learning, make sure you keep that in mind. It's a student-focused approach. Now, synchronous learning, the students actually attend at the same time. I may have some students in the classroom and I may have some that's online, but they're all tuned in at the same time. There's that visual aspect. So we have that collaboration. They're engaging, they're talking to each other, raising hands, discussion boards, all that stuff. That social interaction is there. And guess what? It's also flexible and the teacher is involved the whole time. So that's the difference between asynchronous and synchronous learning styles. Of course, we have pros and cons with both. The main pro that I saw with asynchronous learning is the student controls the learning. And for some students, you want them to have that type of responsibility. At least with my students, I like them to feel that they're in control of their learning. So that's one aspect I do like about the asynchronous style. But again, there's no collaboration. And remember, the instructor, you're basically from a distance. You're letting them go with that. So basically, I would say my students who I feel are mainly independent, I will put them in this type of environment. And again, there's constant synchronous learning. Of course, it's just like being in a face-to-face course. If you're that student and you don't want to have that time constraint placed on you and you just want to do it independently, this will be the style for you. This synchronous learning, it uses different types of technology, and that is one thing I love. I may do Zoom today and may do WebEx tomorrow, but I have different things I can add to that. It's very convenient. Of course, students don't have to drive in. They can just log on if they don't want to come to class. I love the fact that with this type of learning style, the student must be engaged. You can't just sit online or you just can't sit in the class and not participate, because we know when that happens, you're not learning. Also, it saves time. So that's what I love about the synchronous style. Now, there are some theories that I looked up that is actually adult learning theories that kind of make sense and kind of go along with the synchronous learning style. And the first one would be Vygotsky's zone of proximal development. I'm gonna call this ZPD. This whole theory is basically about problem solving. And that's what we want our students ultimately to do. We want them to learn how to problem solve. So according to Vygotsky, social construction of solutions is the solution to problems, basically social construction, those social interactions. That is what's going to help students solve problems. And according to ZPD, teacher and learners being both involved in the problem solving aspects is the best way. So if I see my students, I want to make sure that I'm involved with that. I don't want to just give them the assignment and say, here, solve this problem. If I've shown you how to do it, I want to make sure I have to demonstrate it over and over until you get it, because according to this theory, the more I'm involved, the better off you'll be regarding this problem solving. I'm going to learn as well, which is a plus. And also, according to ZPD, the social environment fosters problem solving. So that's where the synchronous learning comes in. I want to make sure that environment remains social. I want to keep those students engaged, because when that happens, they're going to brainstorm, they're going to solve problems, and that's when the learning is really going to occur. Now, another model that I found is called the community of inquiry model. I had never heard of this before, but this model basically says that students need to learn in an active environment, that interactions fosters what the author calls presence. And there are 3 types of presences: cognitive, social, and teaching. And according to this model, the teacher and a learner, they need to share ideas and opinions. I love that, because I think that as instructors, sometimes we forget that we're still learning. And just because we're teaching our students, that doesn't mean our students don't teach us. So I love the fact that the teachers and the students have to collaborate and share their ideas and share their opinions. And of course, according to this theory, the presences at some point, they're going to overlap. And they overlap during things like discussion boards or on blogs, doing web conferences, just basically during a social interaction. So keep that in mind when it comes down to synchronous learning and the community of inquiry model. Now I have one more theory I'm going to share with you. This one is called online collaborative learning model. Now this particular model was developed by the author basically for the knowledge age. So I say the technology savvy crowd. I would not call my generation that, but I would call my daughter's generation that, and she's almost 30. To me, that's the knowledge age, the technology crowd. This particular model believes in the power of networks, and networks are important, especially when you're doing anything dealing with technology. It's very, very important. And it also believes in collaboration for that problem solving. And this model was actually developed to try to reshape traditional learning, because whether we like it or not, the traditional learning is gone, right? And COVID-19 has proved that to us, that we have to do things a lot different now if we want to retain and reach the adult population and the audience in general. So according to this model, there are 3 phases of knowledge discourse that will occur when you have a group setting. Ideas are going to be generated, right? We know that. That's what we want. That's basically that brainstorming phase. Then once those ideas are brainstormed from the group, they're going to organize it, right? That's when they're going to put everything together. They're going to figure out how they're going to do it, basically putting the puzzle pieces together. And then the last phase of this group is going to be intellectual convergence. And basically that's a fancy word for saying the last output. Basically the finished product, the essay, the work, the project, whatever they were doing, now it's all together and they're going to share with each other what they did. So I love the online collaborative learning model. And I think these 3 theories that I just introduced kind of fits really good with synchronized learning. Does anyone have any questions or anything, or need me to slow down? Okay, I'll keep going. As I stated earlier, I am an employee of ASU BB, a wonderful organization. I wanted to throw in here how wonderful they have been regarding distance learning, okay? Now, overall, you can see from 2019 and 2020, their overall student enrollment in adult education was approximately 114 students. And in 2020 to 2021 of late August this year, I stopped at that point, we had up to 136 students, right? Now, when it came out of distance learning, as you can see in 2018 and 2019, we had a 165% increase from 2018 to 2019 with distance learning. But just like everywhere else, when COVID hit 2020, we went from 89 distance learning students to August of this year, approximately 60 students. And that number has increased from my understanding. So I just wanted to let you know, just to show that this COVID-19 thing also impacted the distance learning. You can see it was doing really, really good. So the students was taken to it until COVID hit. And I had some interaction with our director, and she gave some wonderful reasons as to why some of the students may have, besides just COVID, some other reasons that the students' participation in distance learning kind of fell off. And I didn't think about that until I interviewed her. Basically, federal assistance, the unemployment checks, the stimulus checks, all of those factors also played a role in why distance learning students have kind of fell off the wagon a little bit. And now I'm noticing, at least at the locations that I'm teaching at, the participation is starting to pick back up. Enrollment is starting to increase because a lot of those government assistance aspects are being taken away. So here comes the good stuff, the free stuff. And I've been looking for technology, and of course, everyone is familiar with Zoom. I was not familiar with WebEx, and I was not familiar with LearnCube. And I wanted to introduce these things to you just in case you didn't know a lot about them. Of course, Zoom, this is what happens with Zoom. Zoom is a web conferencing site, and of course, we know that because we're on it now. But the free version of Zoom, you can actually have up to 100 people in a meeting. The meetings can last up to 40 minutes. If you're doing one-on-one meetings, they're actually unlimited. And of course, you have private and group chats. You can have screen share. You also have a whiteboard that you can save. But the only thing about the free version of Zoom is you cannot record it. And for teachers, we need those statistics to show proof of who is coming in and out of our classrooms. Okay. Now, I can go ahead and show you all how to get in Zoom and make a Zoom session. And I will go ahead and do that now. As you can see, I have a personal, let me share my screen, stop this share screen. And let me see. I will pull up now my Zoom. Well, I think it won't let me do it because I'm actually in Zoom right now. So it won't let me do it. I apologize. What I will do is I will continue with WebEx because it's not letting me share it. 1 second here. But is everybody familiar with Zoom? At least how to create a session and know the features of Zoom with the whiteboard and the group chats and the different.
Yes.
Okay, all righty. Let me go ahead to WebEx. Now WebEx is also, it's just like Zoom, it's free. There are also paid versions of it, but the free version allows you up to 100 people. Now, unlike Zoom, it gives you up to 50 minutes for your video conferencing. And it also has screen share. It has the personal chat room, whiteboard, but you can record your sessions. That's one thing you can do in that. And I will stop here and I'll show you how that looks on this end. Let's see. Now, as you can see, can everyone see it? The WebEx?
We can see it.
Okay. Okay. Now, basically, it's just like Zoom. As you can see, I'm up here. I have the same features. What you would do is you would go over here and you would create your sessions, and you would go ahead and put the name. It's the exact same thing, just like Zoom. Okay, when you're using this feature. Now, one feature I did love, and I want to make sure that I share that one with you as well. One that I really, really liked was LearnCube. I don't know if anyone's familiar with LearnCube, but I love that one. It's not like Zoom or WebEx. What it is, it's almost a tutoring tool. It's for teachers to use if they want to do tutoring sessions with their students. The main feature for LearnCube, it's the whiteboard. And I also love the fact that they have math and English tools up there. And it's very, very unique. And I'll show you that in a second. But one thing about LearnCube, it's very limited on the free version. It only lets you have a session with up to 4 people. It does give you an hour for the meeting, but you can only have up to 10 files. And there are also no recordings with that. But the good thing about it is on the whiteboard, everything you've done, you can save it. So that can act as proof if you really wanted to. But I also love the fact that it gives you a learning analysis at the end. It tells you how many students were in there, how long they were in there, what they discussed. It tells you everything. And I will go ahead now and show you about LearnCube. which I think is really, really neat. Let's see. All righty, give me 1 second. There it is, there it is. As you can see, I've played on here. Now, this version that I'm in, I actually paid to get the upgraded version because I'm going to use this. But as you can see, this is some of the sessions that I created on here. And what you do is you just, well, let me see if I can move this out of the way. What you would do is you would go in and create your session. Since I've created one in the past, I'm going to go ahead and just click class review on here, just so I can show you how the whiteboard is and everything like that. And this is the whiteboard. And what you would do is on the side over here, you would go ahead and invite your students in, whoever you want to have in there. And once they all get in, you would just start your lesson. On the whiteboard, you actually can type in, I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of tools that's going to pop up. And I apologize, they're not popping up because my internet's moving slowly because of the weather. But once you get in here, you'll see all types of tools. And one feature I really love, especially if you're going to be working with your math students, there's protractors on here. There are rulers. I mean, all of the formulas for math, geometry, everything is on here, and it just goes on a board. You can also upload YouTube videos, your Google files, all types of stuff on here. And like I said, you do have a learning analysis at the end. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here for a second and get back to the PowerPoint. Again, these are just some resources that I found. And like I said, they are really, really helpful. And if you just take the time and look at them, you probably will like them as well. Now, you're probably asking, since you gave us all this information about synchronous learning, what could instructors do to enhance the synchronous learning experience for the students? Well, there are so many things that we can do. We can manage that learning environment. And when I say manage that learning environment, keep it engaged, keep it active. Make sure the students are not just in there just to be in the session. Make sure that you give them the same experience that they would have if they were sitting in front of you, okay? You wanna maximize that student engagement. When I say maximize it, I don't mean just give them lessons. I mean, I want them to participate. I want them to have fun, just make the overall experience for them just pleasant. The first thing you wanna do if you're gonna teach a synchronized class, you wanna lay out the expectations and requirements of the class in the beginning of the class. A lot of times when students take synchronized courses, sometimes there is not a syllabus given. And sometimes as instructors, we assume students know stuff. Well, you got to understand something. This technology thing is new for us. It's new for them as well. So we need to let them know, well, it's not the same as you being 5 minutes late logging online than it is if you walked in the door 5 minutes late. There's a different expectation there, okay? So also, a lot of times, like I said, they're not familiar with this technology. I know I use Essential Ed a lot. A lot of the students, before I even give them their own password and everything, I sit down and physically show them how to use Essential Ed. You want to do that with any type of technology that you're introducing to your class. Don't assume that they know. Make sure that they know and you show them, okay? You also want to make sure that they're participating with each other. I know I'm an online student. I'm a very independent learner, but I know some students, they're not that way. So when you're in a synchronous class, you want to make sure that they're still participating, they're being engaged, that they're talking to each other and not just you. Another important thing that you need to do, make sure that you track and assess their learning. It's easy when you have a synchronized class to kind of forget about the persons that are in virtual online world, but you have to make sure that you track and assess them as well. And we can do that easily just by listening to what they're saying, watching their participation. How many times did they raise their hand? How many times, look in the chat box, see what they're doing. Also, another big thing, and I know a lot of times when we're doing technology type learning and teaching, we want to introduce the students to as much as possible, but we can't. When you're doing videos, make them short and sweet, straight to the point, because remember, they didn't come to just sit there and watch videos. They came there to get your expertise and your knowledge and what you need to teach them. Another thing, you want to use the best technology for the material. Just because a technology is available doesn't mean it's the right one for you. And it doesn't mean it's the right one for that lesson. So you want to make sure that it fits into what it needs to fit into. The most important part of this, allow students to give you feedback, right? Remember, they're the ones on the other end that's dealing with this technology and all this other stuff. So they can be overwhelmed. Listen to them. If they're feeling that this lesson was too long, well, maybe next time cut it short, because they're the ones that have to collaborate and do all this stuff. So we need to allow for that feedback. And you want to integrate your instructional strategies. Sometimes you may decide, I want to just do an asynchronous this time, a learning experience for them. But at some point you need to make sure that you integrate, and just that way it keeps it fresh and it keeps the learning fun for the students. I know I've talked a lot, but I hope you all got a lot out of this session. Are there any questions about synchronized or asynchronous learning? If not, thank you so much for attending this session. If you want a copy of the PowerPoint, I will be glad to send it to you. And I can see if I can actually upload it, and all of the references to everything is on here. So I really appreciate everything.
Hey,
Thank you, guys.
Bobby.
Mhm.
Hey, Bobby. Catherine was asking, can you show the whiteboard feature in Zoom? Because she hasn't really
Yes.
used that, and you were going over that earlier.
Yes, let me go ahead and 1 second. I'm trying to pull it up. It's not letting me pull up my Zoom because I'm already on a Zoom with my same account.
Okay, let me see.
So-
Yeah, normally, I think you would just go up to,
Because I can see mine. Because I have it pulled up, but it's not letting me.
yeah, it's not gonna let you do it. I was trying to see, like,
Yeah.
at the very top, there's what button is at the very top, and you're supposed to click that, and then it gives you the option of a whiteboard. Is that not correct?
Let me see. Actually, yes, it does. But see, I can't do it on this session here because you're the host.
Oh, could she
And
do
I
it?
have,
Let me see if I can do it. Let me see. See, mine's not even showing me.
Yeah, I
All
don't
right,
even have it
advanced, let me
on.
see, that's,
well, let me do this. I'll go back to WebEx because it's the exact same thing. And I'll show you how to get to that whiteboard. Because it
Okay.
should be, and within Zoom, it should be at the top.
yes,
As
and see, I
well.
don't have it at my top right now.
And it should be at the top. Let me stop the
Okay,
screen.
somebody put in the comments that if you go to your share screen,
Mhm.
Mhm.
it pops up as whiteboard. I
I
didn't
see it
realize
now.
that's
There
where
it
it was
is.
at.
Thank you. Thank you. Here it is. Can you all see it now?
Yes, thank
Yes,
you.
Okay.
yes.
And as you can see, it has a lot of features on here. And I'm not too good with the drawing board, but I like to do the text feature where you can actually type on there. So, but my computer's moving slow, but here it is. So as you can see, you can do all of that. And you should be able to add in some of your files. If you have something that a piece of material, it should be able to be added to the whiteboard as well. It should be allowed to upload on here. But this is the whiteboard.
Okay,
That's really
cool.
neat.
Want to
too.
see something else?
Hey, Gina, I think you had a question. You want to ask Bobby that question as well?
Oh, well, yes, I just was sitting here thinking, I mean, I'm learning as she's teaching, this is some of this synchronous vocabulary is new to me too, or asynchronous. But Bobby, so if a student is strictly doing essential ed or Aztec, that would be considered asynchronous then, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
I just never, I'd heard these terms, but I appreciate your clarifying that. And that's just one question that came to mind, because I know we use that a lot here at
Mhm.
ASUBB for our students, but I like the synchronous more actually, because you know, obviously, as you explained, you get more interaction with the teacher.
Mhm.
And but anyway, people not being able to meet at the same time sometimes is an issue, as you talked about. But I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and Anyone else want to see any other demonstrations or anything? Now, if you would like me to send you a direct copy of this PowerPoint and the references, just go ahead and put your email address on here and I'll write them down and I will make sure that I send it to you as soon as this session is over with.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and put the Survey Monkey link in the chat box as well. So you can copy it. I don't think you should be able to copy it and take it over and paste it and go straight to it. But I'm going to put that in as well. Y'all go in, please fill out your survey. And thank you so much, Miss Bobby, for a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I learned quite a bit. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
me
much.
too. Thanks, Bobby.
And will I be able to still see the chat information so I can write down? the
I
email
will
address?
not end it.
Okay.
I'll
okay.
give you plenty of
Thank
time. When you tell me you got it all down, then I can end it.
Thank you, everyone. You all have a great day.
Let me see. I may have put the wrong Zoom. Let me copy and paste it because I think I typed it. I may have messed something up. So I'm going to try to put the copy and paste the Survey Monkey link in. So one more second.
Okay, good, because that didn't work.
Is there a way I
Mine-
can put the
mine didn't
PowerPoint
either.
in the? Is there a way I can upload the PowerPoint?
You know what? We may be able to, because I know they're going to have all the sessions recorded and available. So if
Mhm.
you can maybe send it to me and I'll send it to Marcia, or you can send it directly to Miss Marcia, and we
Okay.
can see about putting it where all the rest of the saved recorded links go.
Okay. And what's your email address?
Kaufman D. It's KAUFMAND
Uh-huh.
at UAMONT.edu.
ONT.
It's uamont.edu.
Okay.
If y'all will
I
give
have
me
it.
just 1 second and I will go and find the link, the Survey Monkey link,
Okay.
and bring it back over.
So,
Okay, that one should work.
I'm almost done.
I was gonna say, you're fine, and the new link is in the chat box, and it
That
does
one-
work.
Yeah, it worked, Doris.
Good.
think I got one more. Yeah. Okay, I'm done.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You have a great day.
Okay, let me see. Hold on. I'm not going to end it. So they're coming back in. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, I'm going to stay on for a little bit longer in case, because I think a lot of them got the first link and it didn't work and they're coming back. So I'm going to stay on here for just a little bit longer, but I do appreciate you, Miss Bob. You did a fantastic job.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You all have a
Yes,
great day,
ma'am.
okay?
You too. Thank you.